Welcome to Podula Rasa. I'm David Blank.
And I'm Jim Esch.
This is a podcast about finding something in nothing. This is show 18, the closer of season 1. I can't believe we're actually here.
What a long, strange trip it's been.
It sure has been. It seemed like a good bookend to kind of close 2020 on and then start up 2021 with another one, a different one. We still have some more interviews to get through. I know I do, and I'm working on them, but slow.
Mm-hmm.
It was very interesting. Like when I first presented when we were first talking about the idea of doing an 18th podcast about, sort of a check-in, I had this really well-formed thought in my head of a very specific set of things that I thought, well, we should cover this, we should cover this, we should cover this, specifically about Thom. So it just seemed like it's the 18th, and this being so close to the anniversary of his passing away. And I feel like I've learned a lot about him and about his impact on me, but in a very general sense, in terms of like how people impact other people that you don't even think about. Then I started listening to some of the episodes thinking, well, I'll get some more ideas. And the more I listened, the more nebulous it became. And it was almost like it became overwhelming. It became completely overwhelming to the point where I just thought, I felt 2 days ago, I felt completely paralyzed. I mean, because I thought, where did it all go? Like I had this great idea. I wrote things down. They don't mean what they meant before. Like, why is this? And I don't know what it means exactly, but I feel more in touch with what he was doing that I never felt I knew before. Like I was listening to Danielle DeCaro's episode the other day, and when she was talking about reading Emerson with him, and for my first thought was, damn, I never did that, and I had opportunities, but for whatever reason, I just never did. Even later in life when he said, let's be friends. And I was like, yeah, well, I got this little kid and I got a wife and I got, how am I going to do this? I'm in New Hampshire. And I think that the message was more about how you deal with people in general.
As I've listened to some of these episodes and reflect on them, I feel very in touch with the people. Like so much of what they say echoes how I felt and what my perceptions were. But I do feel a little bit of a sense of loss where I only had Thom for one semester class. And lots of these folks had him for multiple classes, and they were, more than 1 year, and they got to play more music with him and record music and all that. And we just had a touch of that, just a little taste of it.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's that feeling of what might have been.
Well, it's a combination of that. It's a combination of what might have been, because even people who had relationships with him after high school, or just like people like Jimmy or Johnny G, they just kept going like all the way through the rest of his life. Yeah, so I guess there's a sense of loss there, that of what could have been, but I also have to think that it's kind of something about looking forward and looking and making more of this moment. I'm in a way, I'm a little envious.
I almost used that word myself. Yeah. I'm glad you used it first.
Okay. Not in a bad way, but just,
right.
Like, wow, that would have been so cool. But I think it's changed me. I think doing this podcast has changed me in terms of how I think about my relationships to people now, both friends, people I respect, people I don't respect, maybe my students. I feel like I understand people a little bit better having looked through the lens of who Thom was, and in a way who he still is, because he's not here, but in a lot of ways he is. We're talking about him. He's in the room with us right now. He's present.
Well, as long as you have those memories and those impressions that were made, as long as you're alive, they're still there.
Right.
They're in you just pull them back into your present. I feel like I know him better now.
Right.
He was this kind of enigma before. He was kind of mysterious. He flew in. It was about a year of sort of impact.
Right.
But now I have a much richer appreciation for what he was up to, and that this kind of thing that I experienced with him was all these other people had as well.
Right.
Right. All this has totally influenced my teaching for the good. Just absolutely. I think of it constantly. I just feel like these shows have it's like feeding the fire. Like there's more and more fuel there, and I have more ideas, and I think I'm a better person when I work with the students.
Your hawk is outside the window.
Yes. Absolutely.
And he's not leaving.
So you also were telling me that like the number 18 has significance.
Oh, well, in the Bible, the number 18 is a number for life. Not that I'm that religious, but it's, if you take the letters in the Hebrew for life, it's basically two letters that add up to 18.
So the letters have numbers assigned to them.
There's a lot of numerology, early religious stuff, and even now, like, it's just people love numbers. But yeah, yep. So it seemed appropriate to have this one just be a reflection, kind of on life in a way, but through the lens of what we're doing.
There was a story that Lori Friedman told. I'm not sure if it made the final cut on the podcast, but it was in the full interview where she mentioned this. It's something about the number 18 came up, but she gave him a Christmas gift. Do you remember that story?
Oh yeah. And he thought that
she gave him $18 or something.
He thought that's all she had. That's right. Yeah, because it's a significant number. The thing is, when you really think about what it is that we're doing, it's a little overwhelming, and maybe in part because I've just been so busy this term, but it's just like I get into that loop of no matter what I do, and it's not going to be enough, and it's not going to be good enough.
Well, if I look at the past season, it's been an interesting arc. So, yeah, okay. All right. So to backtrack, we didn't know what we were doing. We still don't know what we're doing.
I think it's good that way.
I think that was like the John Hassel quote sort right. of was the initial inspiration for the whole thing.
Yep. Starting off with bright, shiny things where we weren't really sure where we were going, I don't think, for a couple of episodes. I still want to interview him. He still hasn't written back to me. So maybe he's a fan and he listens to it now. Who knows?
But he may be. I mean, it's like, isn't that some like logical issue? Like where just because we don't know he's listening doesn't mean he's not listening. And if a tree falls in the forest, does it make a sound? So show 2 was listener feedback. I remember that one because of Kevin. Kevin just cracked me up in that. We had no listeners, so we kind of like, I don't know how you forced Kevin to listen to it.
Well, how do you get people on, to listen is put them on the show.
Right. You're going to be a special guest.
Right. And then they tell their friends and so on and so on. And
But Kevin helped to sort of guide it in a small way. It sort of helped define what we were doing, I thought. I'd love to hear back from Kevin. So Kevin, if you're listening, you're always welcome. Show 3 was on meditation, right?
yeah.
I think we were just talking about how we were getting into it, and you were giving a lot of good advice about TM.
But we were still finding our way.
That's right.
It's like, what are we going to talk about? Well, what are we interested in? Okay, let's talk about that. But it's been kind of a thread.
Yes. Oh, yeah. The meditation's been in and out, and it's we've gotten some good feedback from people about those discussions.
Yesterday was a particularly strange day. Actually, I meditated for the first time in a while. I mean, I'd been meditating, but I actually made it through 20 minutes. And then last night, I got an email from one of the schools that I work at, from one of the deans, because somebody I never hear from. I should never hear from them, or if I do, it's not a good thing. And they were thanking me for working with a student who basically posted onto the school's Facebook page about this experience that she had had with me, and she'd been going through something very personal, and she missed some assignments. Contacted me, and I apparently was very empathetic, and like I didn't do anything out of the ordinary, but it was enough that they flagged this Facebook post and wanted to find out who her instructor was, and then wrote to me to thank me for what I would just do normally, which was just like so unbelievably cool, because it's like that validation that, okay, like I'm doing it right. I've been really busy this term, and it's actually felt like I've been too busy. And so even though I was too busy, that didn't fall off the table. And then I got a raise at a different school. It was like within 30 minutes, boom, boom. My wife looked at me and said, "What's the next thing?" like, these things just don't happen like that.
Yeah, it's good. It's good because like sometimes you get to the end of semesters and I often feel burned out, and I feel like I could have done so much better, and you sort of end on a sour note sometimes, or whatever, and everyone's just kind of bitter and wants a divorce. But then you get a little bit of validation, a little bit of praise helps. Like I found this, I put this in my Substack article. Like I came across a review of me as a teacher, and the person called me literally a golden retriever in human form.
Wow.
And at first I was like, whoa, should I be offended by that? Or then I was like, no, I really like that. Like, I mean, that is a high compliment to be compared to a dog.
That's awesome. That's nice. I don't hear good feedback frequently. Like usually the people who are happy just leave, and the people who are unhappy either just leave or they expound very negatively.
Right.
But it's never enough that I don't get rehired. So,
yeah.
And then once in a while, like yesterday, I get that amazing validation.
You said something about meditation, like you were getting back into meditation. Have you, and you made it through 20 minutes. Has it been a struggle lately?
Yes. Yeah. Like I'd find myself sitting down and just saying, okay, I'm just going to do this. And like between 1 and 5 minutes goes by. And then I think, oh, I got to go do something. And I end up like the meditation ends with me like on the third thing that I was going to do, that couldn't wait 20 minutes. So yeah, it's been frustrating. It waxes and wanes like that for me, but when I'm into it, and it's always really good. I mean, have you been continuing with your meditation?
I have, but I've been struggling with it too. I think because of the anxieties and the busyness of the end of the semester. I'd say the last month, there's been days I've missed, which was very upsetting. And then like there'd be some days where I can't even get to it till like bedtime, basically. So I'll meditate in bed before sleeping, which I don't like to do that. It's not the same experience. It's been more of a struggle to get to it. And but the thing I've noticed is when I don't do it, I have a bad day. Like I really miss it. And the days when I make time to do it, the day usually turns out better, or I'm calmer. I'm more like at peace or something, and able to deal with the stress better. So it's like I really need and want to do it. It's been a struggle. The other thing that I'll build on that is I've felt so out of shape lately. I've gained some weight, and I need to start exercising and so forth. So now what I'm doing is like walk. I'm not running right now, but I go for long walks, and I'll be out for like an hour, sometimes an hour and a half, usually 3 to 5 mile walk.
That's what we do. My wife and I walk together.
Oh, awesome.
For about an hour. And it really helps me. We used to belong to a gym, and we basically quit because of COVID, because it was just, they were closing every other day, and just finally like, this is ridiculous. Why are we doing this?
Mm-hmm.
So, but walking is definitely, it's a great thing to do every day. You know, you can burn a bunch of calories, and I know I feel better when I do it. Or if I miss a day, it's kind of like meditation. If you miss a day, you notice it.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
The thing is, it's a meditation though.
Yeah.
It's a walking meditation.
Yep.
And I don't listen to any music or anything. I just go out. I don't even put my hearing aids in. I just go out really early around sunrise. It's extremely meditative, and it's been super great for my stress.
Yeah. Do you find that it's better at a certain time of day, kind of like meditation?
Walking?
Yeah. Doesn't matter when you do it.
Morning.
Yeah.
Early morning.
Same for me, both. Like if I don't meditate by like 6 or 7 in the morning, it's hard. It's really hard to do it. But if I get in there at 5 or 5:30, then I'm good. And I feel like I've done something at the very start of the day that motivates me to go further.
Sometimes it's hard to even find the 20 minutes or the hour to walk. You really have to commit to it.
Yeah.
Some days with meditation, for one reason or another, I don't do it in the morning. I've been going through this with COVID, like during the pandemic. Early into that, there would be a time of day where both Stacy and I would get real antsy and sort of aggravated and just restless and listless. Usually it was around 3 p.m. or so. And then I think over the summer that kind of subsided. And then now for me, it's come back a little bit. So around maybe 2 p.m. or so, I usually am very productive in the mornings and sort of the early half of the day. And then like by afternoon, I'm like, well, what now? I kind of checked all my boxes off, and then I get sort of like, ugh. By dinner time, I often make dinner, so that's something to do. I keep busy with that, but that before dinner hours can be a struggle. That's often a good time to meditate. If I remember that and say, okay, well, you don't know what to do, just sit there and do nothing. What I really would like to do is do both times. Do 20 minutes in the morning, maybe 20 minutes in the afternoon. I know that's what the TM you're supposed to do.
That is what they say, yeah.
And I think that's a really good idea. I just have to make the time, get into that habit.
Well, you're on your way. You know, it's a path. You're on your way. It's interesting. You mentioned about the effect of the pandemic, and you know the change in your routine and how that affected you. And in my head, I started thinking about. I wonder if it was easier or harder for people during the Great Plague in the 1660s. You know, the Black Death. Because a lot of people just left the cities and went into the country for like years. I mean, that's Isaac Newton did for 2 years. He left literally and like went to a monastery, I think, and invented calculus. But
I was going to ask, was he productive while he was away?
Yeah.
He invented calculus.
But can you imagine, like, there was nothing else to do there? I mean, you just had to stay alive and not go into the city. And I wonder if it's harder or easier now that we have these other things that we can do and distractions and, you know, TV or whatever. And it's only, 450, 60 years later.
It's funny you mentioned Newton, because in Shakespeare's day, they would sometimes close the theaters because of an outbreak of the plague.
Right.
And Shakespeare was super productive in those hiatuses when he probably left. We don't know for sure, but he probably left London, maybe went back to Stratford where he was born. He would come back, and then, King Lear would come out, or
yeah, well,
here's what I did while I was on vacation.
Yeah, right. From the plague. God.
I thought that show 4, The Persistence of Memories, Zeus and the Druids Behind the Music, is when it really clicked in for me. It entwined with the Thom Williams experience, which was going to come 2 shows later when we finally realized that we wanted to spend more time with that. It was a puzzle for me, to put the pieces of memory together, and it was so much fun over the summer to try to connect those dots. That was a very satisfying one to work on, and I really liked the conclusion I wrote for it. And the whole fact that the video that we watched of our band performance from, what was it, 38 years ago?
Yeah, crazy.
Still mind-blowing.
Well, it's like you're going back and touching an origin point, that you didn't think you had access to anymore, and there it is.
Mm-hmm.
And it's still electric.
Right.
It's beautiful. Yeah, that you did a great job on that one. Yeah.
And then show 6, 2 shows later, was the first Thom Williams Experience show. And that's, I believe, our most popular show 6. And then it started to find all these people who then reached out to us, and it started to snowball then. But we had so much more time in the summer, at least I did, to kind of do this. But I think we got in, you started doing all these interviews, and they started to pile up. And I'm like,
they're still piled.
God. And then you had that sort of genius idea to do the birthday show,
right,
where you strung together bits and pieces from all these different interviews to at least get something out there from all those people.
Right.
So that worked out really well. And then it's been kind of knocking them down one by one, going through and getting them out. But it's been a lot harder during the fall, long story short.
In a way, I've kind of felt like thinking back about Thom Williams was a huge meditation for me. Certainly every time I listened to a completed show. And then when I did that one show myself, that was quite a meditation, because it was so creative, and I really had to kind of push the boundaries. But it was also very satisfying in an iterative kind of way. And what I really liked the most about it was that when I was done, I realized that what I had learned from the beginning of the end, or to the end, about how to put it together. And thankfully I didn't go back and change it, because when I listen to it now, I still hear how I changed what I was doing from the beginning to the end.
Oh, right. Okay,
with
cool.
Overlaying music, or the way that I was editing it was different from the first. The first 20 minutes was very different from the second 20 minutes.
So it evolved as it went along.
Yeah, in one show. And
yeah,
I don't think I could have noticed that if I hadn't been completely, completely fresh out of the box in terms of how to edit it.
Yeah, you did it with beginner's mind.
Yes, exactly. Because there was no way to do it any other way. I remember talking to you afterwards, and you said, I wasn't sure you were going to finish it, because I think I called you at one point completely flustered and panicked that I couldn't make stuff work. And you were just you were very kind. You were like,
I was worried. I was worried about you, Dave. I had to talk you down. You were patient, and you figured it out. You got it. You kept asking the right questions, and you just hammered it out, which is the best way to learn.
Absolutely.
And then show 5, we had some meditation updates. I don't remember that show as well.
Was that the one where Mark talked? Was he telling us what we were doing?
Mark, I really felt was really listening and getting what we were doing, even better than we knew what we were doing. The way he was interpreting things, I'm like, oh my God, this is really is something coming out of nothing now.
Yeah. Yeah, we manifested
in show number 8.
Right.
Where you were starting to do interviews and I did a few. We did a show on journaling.
That was 9.
Yep. Then I guess it was our first major Tom Williams themed interview was with Lori Friedman.
Right.
Both Lori and Libra, that I kind of, both of them were colleagues of Tom, so I put them together. Libra was show 14.
And then in the middle, we had The World Is Not the World and the birthday episode. And then Maury Joseph. And that one had a psychological angle because he's a therapist. Feedback loops was listener mail. Remember that? We read some emails from people who had reached out to us. That's right. And we had the the rap.
Oh, Baby Albert's
conditioning. Yeah. That was classic. And Danielle
was like very close.
It was a very emotional episode.
It was very, really cathartic.
Yeah.
And then the John Michael Frank interview, that's one of my favorites too. Just like the tangents that you guys went off on and wove it all together. So everything seemed seamless.
Yes.
And then show 17 was a follow-up to the Maury Joseph because Dave Foreman was best friends with Maury in high school. And we got to fill in the details of the songs that Thom and Maury wrote to raise money for Dave Foreman's self-published book.
Which sold out.
He sold 2,000 copies of it. I mean, and he was apologizing for it. I'm like, I would love to sell 2,000 copies of anything.
But you had mentioned in the episode that there was a book available on Amazon, and I went to go check it out, and they were already sold out.
Oh, somebody bought it.
Somebody bought it. Yeah,
there was one copy available.
Probably, like most of Tom's CDs on CD Baby.
Speaking of which, Dave has scrounged up thanks to his mom, has found 2 of the CDs of songs that Maury and Thom wrote, and we've ripped those tracks and we're going to share them at some point in some fashion soon. A lot of songs I really like on there.
Oh yeah, they're fun. And some of them you can actually, you hear Thom singing. It's definitely him.
But it also sounds like a true collaboration. It sounds like they were writing those songs together.
Yeah. Yeah. And he was accessible in that way. He wasn't like an authoritative figure. He would just let you go. And, they had their process, and you could tell it was a good collaboration.
And that leads us up to now, show 18.
Show 18. And I just pulled out the oblique strategies, and I want to show you the card that I got, and you can read it.
Go outside, shut the door. That's a fitting oblique strategy for the last show of the season.
Absolutely. And I literally pulled that out at random. So you think you can tell heaven from hell, blue skies from pain? Can you tell a green field from a cold steel rail, a smile from a veil? Do you think you can tell? Did they get you to trade your heroes for ghosts, hot ashes for trees, hot air for the cool breeze, cold comfort for change? Did you exchange a walk-on part in the war, lead role in the cage?
Thanks so much, Dave.
Oh, thank you. It's been a good season. I appreciate it.
It's been one of the highlights of 2020. One of the few highlights of 2020.
You got that right. Oh my God.
Really treasure the friendship. I do.
Oh, me too. Yeah. Thank you for your creativity, and you're a force of nature. I don't think you realize it, but you just, I was motivated by your direction. So
thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you.
Likewise.